the quorum, but you want to go ahead and take roll?
Sure. Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong on the name, so I apologize in advance. Edward Nesbitt.
Yes.
Daniel Martin. Wes Epperson.
Here.
Josh Mayfield.
Here.
Gloria Smith. She said she wouldn't be attending, so I just want to make sure she didn't jump on. Fran Wagner. Tim Watkins. And then we have Mike Jackson. Mike Winkler.
Yeah.
Here.
Mike Schott.
Present.
And myself, Tanya Alderson, and Karen DeLucci.
So did I hear that right? We have 3?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me? I'm Daniel Martin. I had it muted. I didn't know I was muted.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Perfect. Now we have a quorum.
Okay.
I'm new to this technology stuff.
Then we're going to go ahead and go around the room. So we'll start with Ed.
Yes.
Do you want them to just introduce themselves? How do you?
Yeah, I think we can have the members introduce themselves too, but for the membership, so they can know who we are, what roles we serve for the city. But we definitely can go around with the 4 members that are present as well, and just have them introduce themselves and what their daytime job and how long they've been in Independence.
Okay, I'm Edward Nesbitt. I go by Butch also. So I've been in Independence about all my life since I was in 2nd grade. So I've been here for many years. My mom used to be a city councilman, person at large. So right now I do maintenance on houses for a company and my own contractor, basically. So that's what I do.
I'm Daniel Martin. I've lived in Independence my entire life other than the time I spent in the Army. I'm been disabled for about 15 years now due to back injury. So I've got a lot of free time to do this kind of stuff. So, I don't know if my picture's showing up, if you guys can see me or not. Am I just a circle with deep?
You are.
So you could have. Okay. That's about all I've got right now.
Okay.
Just a Wes, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I've lived around Independence basically all my life. Lived in Sugar Creek a couple of years, Kansas City, right in the very east edge of Kansas City is where I grew up, but I went to school in Independence. I went to Rock Creek North and South. I went to Nowlin Junior High the first year it was open, graduated from Van Horn in '67. Raised 3 kids in Independence, lived in the 1st district for 28 years. Now I'm in the 4th district, but worked at UPS 44 years, and whatever I can do to help our city, I'm willing to do that. So that's why I'm on this committee. Thank you.
Okay, Josh.
I suppose if I have to. I'm Josh Mayfield. I've lived in Independence 28 of my 30 years. Right now, I mostly just do sort of odds and ends, just trying to figure some stuff out. The street committee is really important to me in learning the functions of the city and things like that, how the sales tax stuff works. It's been really helpful, I think.
Mike Jackson.
Oh, I was muted. Yeah, my name is Mike Jackson. I'm the Deputy Director of the Municipal Services, the newly formed Municipal Services Department, which some of you may know, some may not. What was formerly Public Works that oversaw this sales tax has kind of been folded in with what was formerly called the Water Pollution Control Department. And now we've formed one big happy family of the Municipal Services Department. I have been with the city for about 19 years, served in many capacities, joking with someone the other day that in my 19 years, I've had 15 offices. So I get jumped around a lot, but I think that makes me kind of well-rounded in knowing a lot of the different areas of the city. So looking forward to working with this group, and we've got our work cut out for us here in the years to come, as Mike will attest to. Both Mikes here in a second will attest to. Happy to be here. I'll kick it over to Mr. Winkler.
All right. Thank you, Mike Jackson. I'm Mike Winkler, the city engineer for the Municipal Services Department. I've been with the city for 7.5 years now. The first 6.5 were with the Public Works Department, and then I transferred over to the Water Pollution Control Department for 8 months before the merger has occurred, of course, here in last April. And have been a resident in the city since 2007, so I guess that puts me at 13 years if my math is correct. Mike Schott?
Okay, hello. My name is Michael Schott, and I'm the Facilities and Fleet Manager for the Municipal Services Department. Been with the city going on 3 years now, relocated here from Cape Girardeau, Missouri, and Southeast Missouri, with the similar role in that municipality. And just enjoyed it so far, and there's a lot of good work that's being done for the city, and I think this department merger is going to really help us out too.
And Tanya?
I have been with this city for 2 years. I started out with Public Works, was there a year and 3 months. I moved to finance and was with finance for like 6 months, I think. And then I liked it so much, I had to come back to Public Works, now Municipal Services. And I've been back down here for, I believe, about 6 weeks. And I enjoy my job and enjoy everybody I work with. And learning a lot. And then we have Karen DeLucci.
I'm on city council at large, and I tend to look at money very, very, I'm stingy on money.
Eloquently put. Okay, well, this is your all's meeting. There's been a certain format that's been followed, and we're kind of following that now because that's what's been going on the last number of years. But for you four that are on here, however you want this structured, we're happy to change it to be that way. So what we're following right now in this agenda, this is just what for this evening. We can follow this template in the future, or we can chop it up and start from scratch and maybe skip over some of the things you don't care about and add some extra stuff in about the things you do care about. So feel free to reach out to Tanya, myself, and either Mike, if with any ideas and what, if for some reason out of this meeting this evening you don't get really what you want to hear, the data, the information, the explanations, please reach out to us and let us know, and we'll make sure we get that information to you in an easier way to swallow, possibly, because there is a lot of information to go through. So we're trying to touch on the high points. For this evening, we're going to start off discussing operations and how it pertains to the street sales tax, and that's why we have Mike Schott on here to discuss some of the deferred maintenance items that's included. Mike, do you want to just give a brief little overview of that?
Okay, sure. So this portion was about $2.8 million of what was approved in the finance package. We have a very old fleet of trucks. If anybody saw some of them, they'd probably be appalled. They're rusted away. It takes everything that we have to try to keep them going. Usually every snow event, there's at least 3 trucks that are down, and they just kind of rotate through. We get them going, and then 2 more break down. So we have ordered a dozen new trucks. They're all outfitted or 11 of those are dump trucks outfitted with plows, both a front plow and a wing plow, and spreaders. And we're doing what they call the unibody now, where the spreader is actually integrated into the bed of the truck. They're stainless steel body trucks, and that just helps improve our ability for a quick changeover, to get the trucks loaded and all that. We don't have to spend the time loading spreaders, hooking up the hydraulics and everything. And then one of them is a flatbed truck. So it will be used for our crack seal operations, as well as it will have a 1,800 gallon Henderson brine applicator that will fit on the back of it. And that was an applicator that we currently had. We have 4 more brine applicators that'll be coming with the new trucks. 3 of them are 1,000 gallon tanks, and additional one is 1,600 gallon tank. So we'll have 5 trucks now that we'll be able to go out and pre-treat with prior to the event coming in. And that's critical. If you've done any research on pre-treating streets, bridges, hills, and main arteries and everything, that allows the snow not to adhere and bind to it, and helps with removing it, helps it plow off a lot easier. And if it's a small snow, like an inch or less, it can help it melt really quick, rather than having to do a lot of treating of the roads. So let's see. That's pretty much the equipment side as far as trucks. Then we also have a portion of that. So far we've ordered about $2.35 million worth of equipment through those trucks. And then we had about another $350,000 allocated toward our brine operation. We have purchased a Henderson brine machine. That was about $61,000. That will allow us to make 5,000 gallons an hour of brine. And that sounds like a lot, but if you're pre-treating those tanks that I mentioned, I mean, within 2 hours, they're going to be empty. So you have several thousand gallons, several 1,800 gallons. So, there's 36, about 6,000 gallons right there, just in those trucks that we can be going through. And then during events, we're going to begin pre-treating the salt as well. So as the salt is being laid down, you'll have a liquid application going onto the salt, which helps it adhere to the road. It bounces around less as traffic is driving over it. You don't have your salt flinging around and everything. It actually helps it to start breaking down right away and spreading out and helping alleviate the ice and snow adhering to the pavement. So that's going to be and if you sometimes will be in a snow event for 48 hours, could be longer than that, depending upon the amount of snow we have by the time we treat the entire city and get into the residentials and stuff. So we have that brine applicator. We also are going to be ordering 2 20,000 gallon brine tanks and for storage, and that's about $25,000 for those 2 tanks. And then we have some other miscellaneous stuff that we'll be spending funds on, some electrical work to get all this equipment hooked up. It's all going to be at what we call the Massman Farm location, which was a public works facility, part of municipal services now. It's where they do the citywide drop-off depot. We also store snow equipment down there. The spreaders in the past have been stored there. We have 2 domes for storing salt at that location. So it's going to be some infrastructure spending to get that up and to the way we need it for loading out the salt brine and everything like that. So that's pretty much a quick overview of that portion.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, and we have a whole new management team, as I said before, with the exception of Mike Schott, being involved in snow removal and the equipment side of it and the operations side, and everything that we're doing with snow removal is pretty much brand new with management. So we're pretty excited because we're coming in with new equipment and got a lot more volunteers this year than we've had in the past. I would be hesitant to say we're fully staffed where we would want to be, the most ideal staffing level, but we're much better off than we were in previous years. So we're pretty excited at the snow season. Not saying we're like wanting a whole lot of snow to challenge us, but we're a lot more comfortable this year than we have in the past. And I'm kind of speaking for the staff that are going to be out there doing the snow removal, since they're going to have so much more support from other departments. So anyway, from that, thanks, Mike. I think Mike Winkler now, there's 3 mics on here. So we'll go 1, 2, and 3. You'll be number 1 now, Mike Winkler. If you want to go ahead and just start that overview presentation.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Mike Jackson. Give me just a second. Let me get the PowerPoint presentation pulled over. Can everybody see my... Oh, wait. Let me try there. All right, let me move the computer over. I apologize. I was thinking I'd like this on 2 screens, but my camera's going to be over here. So if everybody could see that on the screen, we'll go ahead and get started.
Looks good.
Okay.
Okay, excellent.
Looks good.
All right. Well, as Mike had talked about, of course, 2 times annually, we will have this committee do their presentation to council. So we'll go through the Capital Improvement Oversight Committee report, some general items here, of course, with the Oversight Committee, the purpose of the committee, and project status and overview. List of the committee members, of course, and the purpose of the meeting or the Oversight Committee is, of course, to monitor implementation of the plan, monitor progress, and report to council in October and in April. The program overview, this is the 12th year that the program has been in place with the street sales tax. Voters approved renewal of the street sales tax in perpetuity in 2017. And then council approved the mini bond for deferred maintenance program in December of 2019. The revenue status, I apologize. We've been working to get the final numbers by the time we had this meeting. We are anticipating those to be here probably tomorrow. So once we go through those, I'm going to send out a separate email to the committee members to be able to update this slide. I apologize for our mistiming on not being able to share that this evening. So then we go into the actual projects update, and we'll go through the construction that is completed so far this year. And we had our sidewalks to schools, which were the 2 locations along the 3 Trails Elementary on 32nd Street from Chrysler to Sterling, and then Cordy Elementary on 25th Terrace from Hardy to Northern, and that was completed as of June of this year. The transit stop improvements were 19 different bus stops, and these projects included new concrete pads at those 19 locations, so that way users of the transit system could enter and exit the buses more efficiently and not be stepping in the mud there. And that was actually completed this summer. So it looks like I've got an update that needs to be taken place, but those 19 locations have been completed. The Kendall Drive Access Management, this was a cooperative activity with the Hawthorne Apartments and the police department to try and control access management along Kendall Drive. And we had removed a section of Kendall Drive to help facilitate and enhance the safety of the roadway operations and the surrounding area. Projects updates for those projects under construction currently include our 2020 asphalt overlay. This is 16.3 miles of roadway, which accounts for 47 lane miles. A lot of the routes that we are doing are multi-laned. So when you look at 16.3, think of driving down the middle of the road, 16.3 miles, and then 47 miles, think of each and every single individual lane associated with that. Our project started July of this year and is anticipated to be completed mid-December. The preventative maintenance program, which is also in our budget for this capital improvements year. This is the first year of programming, and historically we have always done asphalt overlay. This year we are evaluating alternate methods of preventative maintenance for our roadway surfaces. This was crack sealing. We've been working with the street maintenance team. Mike Schott had discussed in operations that we are facilitating a crack sealing machine, and we are teaming with street maintenance to provide the materials and get a lot more done for the value of our team members. Some of the activities that would also be included would be crack filling, microsurfacing, scrub seal, and cape seal. And these are different preventative maintenance methods to help extend the life cycle of our pavement system. Our 2020 intersection improvements, this was actually part of the deferred maintenance mini bond program. And historically, these replacements have taken out the concrete, what we called white topping. And this was thin lift concrete that would help resist rutting of the intersections. In early September, we had completed the River and Truman intersection and the Truman at Noland intersection. We have two other locations. That's going to be 23rd Street and Sterling, as well as 43rd Street and Chrysler. We're going to have to update that name there. I think we got a spell check correction there. That's actually scheduled for October 12th, and then that would complete the four intersections that were included for this year's improvements. Another project that we have under construction right now is the College Street Phase 1. This is roadway improvements. The design consultant was BHC Roads. The project completion was, the design was completed in August of 2019, and we are scheduled to have the completion from Lakeview Avenue to Frederick Street done this December. This project includes pavement reconstruction, new curb and gutter, and ADA compliant sidewalks, stormwater improvements. Pavement marking and signage will include a shared use lane for bicycle users. The relocation of overhead utilities will be relocated to underground and will remove a lot of the power poles that are in close proximity to this traffic corridor. All right, and then next year for the construction season, we're we're seeing a couple of projects that are coming through. Our 40 Highway Complete Streets project. This was a STP, or a Surface Transportation Program project that is applied for through the Mid-America Regional Council. It was built, or it was designed by Finnis, and we anticipate that we will be bidding that out here in the next couple of months, with construction to be started in the spring and completed next fall. This takes 1.51 miles between Blue Ridge Cutoff and Sterling along the north side of 40 Highway. And then there are curb and gutter improvements, storm drainage improvements, sidewalk and pedestrian signals. And then we are going to repurpose the shoulder and be able to have a dedicated on-street bicycle lane. The Mill Creek Trail Extension, this was actually a project that was originally within the scope of the 24 Highway Complete Streets project, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. This was, this design and construction, we are anticipating putting that out to bid this fall. We anticipate that the construction will be starting in the winter, at least to abide by the endangered species, making sure that we take down the trees during the bat restrictions in the wintertime. And then this project should be completed next summer. This one was funded by the Transportation Alternatives Program, which is more trails and sidewalks and those non-motorized programs to help build non-motorized infrastructure. And this is this will also include a 120 or 30-foot pedestrian bridge. The Truman Depot and Pacific Trail improvements. This has been a project we've been working with the Parks Department to help facilitate. We are actually going to be having a diagnostic review with Union Pacific Railroad on October 14th. We have been working diligently with Missouri Department of Transportation to get the reviews done. Once we have that, or the diagnostics completed, we should be able to proceed forward with the actual bidding and construction of the project. There's a depot restoration improvements on the station itself, and this also includes a trail that connects the depot all the way down to the intersection of Pacific and Pleasant. Will ultimately be able to tie into the National Frontiers Trails Museum there. And we talked about it just a little bit earlier, but the deferred maintenance capital improvements projects, a couple of these that have come through, with the Scott Avenue Bridge we'll talk about here in a minute. The curb and gutter maintenance program, this is the first year we've been working with our street maintenance division to determine which portions of that work they could be working on to help keep our costs low and get these activities completed. We anticipate that that's going to start in the spring of next year and get that done by summer of next year. The sidewalk installation program, this is a project where we are trying to fill gaps in sidewalks around town. On the curb and gutter, I know we are looking at 6 specific locations, one of which was done with the overlay program. On the sidewalks, the first year we have prioritized these locations and have come up with a recommendation of 10 locations. And we're finalizing the paperwork on getting that established and moved over to bidding. The 2020 bridge assessment is also in a slide in a few slides here. The streets maintenance equipment was what Mike Schott had discussed earlier in the presentation here. The bridge repair and maintenance program, and then the 24 highway cost share for phase 2 and streetscapes was also penciled in for the $17.9 million that was bonded out. The Scott Avenue Bridge, this is a bridge that has been out of service for quite some time. One of the bridge ends had washed out and had made the structure unsafe to travel across for vehicular traffic. Originally, this was part of the street sales tax, and there was a little bit of shifting of funds to prioritize other projects. And what we've decided this summer to do is to move that over to the deferred maintenance program. So there is a revenue source or the funding source for this to be completed. And we're working on the inspection and bidding for this winter so it can be constructed next spring and summer. The 2020 bridge assessment, we have come up with a recommendation for the next 3 to 5 years on bridges. Part of that deferred maintenance program was to identify and figure out what the quality of our bridges are. That has been completed, and now staff is working to incorporate those findings into city works and then also into the 5-year CIP as we start in the budget cycle here. Going on to future projects, these are projects that may or may not, depending upon how the activities lay out, be able to start construction next year. So we've just categorized these as future projects. The first one was Hardy Avenue sidewalks. I know there's been some interest in this one. We have split. This would be Hardy Avenue between 35th Street and 31st Street. We have moved that to an in-house design program, and we are currently gathering field data for survey, and we'll be able to start moving that into design. As we are prioritizing our projects right now, we've got this penciled in for next fall and then completed by the summer of the following year. It is approximately half a mile worth of sidewalks, and it includes one side of sidewalks along Hardy Avenue between, again, 35th Street and 31st Street. The 24 Highway Complete Streets Phase 1. Several years ago, we applied for Complete Streets improvements along 24 Highway with the Mid-America Regional Council Grants Program. We successfully were awarded that, and we found that MoDOT wanted to increase the number of lanes and have that continuous left turn lane in the middle of the highway. And so this would be an improvement from 4 to 5 lane section with curb and gutter, and that's the cost share agreement that we've entered into with MoDOT. It is currently in the right-of-way or acquisitions plans design phase. Acquisition should be starting in the fall of 2020, potentially this month or next month, depending upon when we get what they call the A date from MoDOT to go ahead and proceed forward with acquisition authority. The Truman Connected Phase 1 project, as part of these grant programs, Truman Connected Phase 1 interconnects the Truman Library up on 24 Highway to the 24 Highway Complete Streets project, or that Phase 1 we were just talking about. And then that connects down to the historic square, which connects over to Inglewood. And that would be the extent of this first phase of the project. There were transportation alternative funds and surface transportation funds that were grant projects associated with that. So this fall, we are advertising the request for qualifications. That should be the 15th of this month. And then we will award the design in January and anticipate that we would have construction in the spring of 2022. That would be improvements or implementation of bicycle and pedestrian facilities and amenities, and then some roadway modifications, utility improvements, and traffic enhancement. The square streetscapes, what the Truman Connected would do is it will run the bicycle lane through approximately on or from Spring and Truman up to White Oak, down Main Street to Lexington, and then using Lexington all the way down to the Inglewood district. The square streetscapes would improve any of the bicycle and pedestrian facilities and amenities. And then it would also have roadway modifications and utilities. There are the amenities, I know they have been talking about with the Square CID, and that would be the participation, my understanding, with the Square CID participating. And yes, Ms. DeLucy had mentioned that we're penciling approximately $1.5 million of the deferred maintenance from that project, from the $17.9 million bond issuance to go to the Square streetscapes. And that's actually, of course, then questions relative to the presentation itself, and then thank you. Let me go ahead and kick the, unless anybody wants to go back to a specific slide, I'll just duck out of the presentation here so I can see your faces again. Okay, let me cancel out of that. And let me get back over to here. All right.
Question.
Yes.
When will we get a copy of this, or do we get a copy of that?
Once we finalize the revenue slide, which should be early part of next week, I will definitely send that out to the entire committee.
Okay. That way we can study it. I mean, I've never seen it. I like to see what's happening.
Yep, definitely.
Any other questions on that? So Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we were given direction from the manager's office that to include that as information only in the council's packet for the
Correct.
19th.
That will be on October 19th, and then council can decide if they want to take that up and have the study session the following week on the 26th, where the I've been so used to talking about stormwater sales tax, I apologize. The Street Improvements Oversight Committee presentation. And I think that's going to be for any of the oversight committees.
Okay. And again, correct me if I'm wrong here, but is this group traditionally not had a chair? The current group that we have here, because most, as many of you know, most of the committees that we have some sort of a chair and a vice chair kind of take the lead on these things when they're presenting to council. It doesn't necessarily mean that person has to do the presenting to council. Typically it is, but they can, work with someone else within their group to take the lead on that. But I don't think we currently, again, Tanya, you can correct me too if I'm wrong, we do not currently have a chair. Is that correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. So since we do have a quorum this evening, it would be nice if you guys could appoint a chair amongst yourselves and maybe even a vice chair. Again, that just gives us a little bit more direction. A kind of a point person who really typically would kind of follow us along this agenda and kind of add things as we go along. And before the meetings as well, talk with Tanya and say, this is what the group has decided they want to see. Is that, Mike, is that something we probably should do this evening, don't you think?
I would agree. I think that would help to facilitate. It gives a single point of contact to the committee. Of course, any of the correspondence can be shared with the committee. Again, we're working for you guys, but I think from our experiences with the other oversight committees and boards relative to that, it is a little bit more effective, efficient. It's just a recommendation that we're coming up to this team with.
Can I add my opinion? This is Wes Epperson.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think tonight would be the ideal night to do that, since we just barely have a quorum, and we have two other members that have been on this committee probably longer than any of us. I think I've been on it 5 years, and Tim and Gloria have been on it a lot longer than that. I'd like to hear their input and their opinion on this. We've never had this before. We've functioned pretty well, and I'd like to have more than just the minimum quorum before we elect a chair and a vice chair. I think we ought to wait till we have more members on the call.
Duly noted. That's not a bad idea. The only reason we were advising, just because of coming up here, the potential to have someone present at council. But to your point, it would be a lot nicer to have the full group and some of those with that institutional knowledge. So we definitely can hold off on that if that's what you all want to do. And we could always have an emergency meeting last minute if the council does want to get a little bit more information. Not that we have to elect a chair then, but we could touch base with everyone here and determine who would be the best person to address the council. And that's a big if. They might even decide, nope, this is good enough. We've got plenty of information. We don't even need to hear from y'all. So, but we will plan on, unless we hear something else from the council, if you guys are all in agreement here, we will push that out to our next meeting in December. And hopefully we'll have all 7 or at least a couple more. Is that okay?
That sounds fine with me.
Yeah.
I'm in agreement with this.
Sounds good. We'll definitely include that in the next agenda. Well, what does that bring us to? Any other questions on let's first of all, any other questions on the CIP update? Or I'm sorry, any other questions on the report to the council, excuse me? Or are we good on that? That report to the council kind of was the 4 and 5 on our agenda are kind of the same thing here. They're kind of put together. So let's jump over to 6 now. Any other just burning questions and items for discussion, things you all would like to hear the next time we meet? Is this a good type of format? Hopefully at some point we'll be able to get back together and meet in person, which are those type of meetings seem to be more effective oftentimes, especially when you're in a group that doesn't really know each other very well yet. But we are where we are right now with this thing, and this is how it's going to be for a little while at least. With that, any other questions or discussion?
I do have a question. What does CIP stand for? What's that mean?
Am I muted? I can't even find my mouse. You guys hear me? Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. It's capital improvement projects is the CIP, and I apologize. We drop into our acronyms every once in a while too often, and we leave some folks behind. So I do apologize about that.
It's okay. I've always heard the only stupid question is a question not asked. So I didn't know what it was, so I asked what it was. Now I know. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Now, that report you just showed us, did we make that up earlier, or is that something that you guys made up?
We've been working over the last week with, we had taken a look at some of the previous reports. Most recently, the reports have taken on more of a, not a letter format, but a written report format. And historically, looking back at some of the previous slides from, say, 2013, 14, 15, there was actually a PowerPoint presentation with photos of the activities themselves. I think uh, we recommend that because you can actually see the fruits of the labor of this oversight committees or the funding source. I'm sorry, relative to it actually in place. So that was what we had put together. We mirrored what was historically used in and disclosed in that information, and then that's what we've presented this evening. And of course, like Mike Jackson had mentioned, if there's any other information you think would be relevant that we should incorporate, please feel free to reach out to any one of our team members.
Okay. That answered that. Thank you.
Okay, is this we have time for more questions?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, this report that we've been hearing tonight, is this available in a written form? I mean, the outlines or whatever, this report, is this available for the committee members? Or at what point will they be available?
So the only thing we have left is the revenue slide from being a complete report. Of course, the other part of that was if there was any comments relative to the recommendations of the report, dotting the final I's, crossing the final T's, and getting that out to the membership of the committee. We will be sending that PowerPoint presentation out, I would anticipate midweek at the latest, once we get those numbers finalized with finance.
Okay. All right. And I've got a question about the new equipment that the city's purchased, the snow plows, the brine sprayers, et cetera. Where are you going to be spraying brine on side streets, or are you just going to be spraying that on main thoroughfares?
I don't have the answer for you on that. I'm just texting Mike Schott to jump back on here again. This snow removal stuff's brand new to me. I know there's some very specific specifications for where that stuff can be used and what temperatures and when it's not effective, how soon you're supposed to put it on. I know they've used it in the side streets before. They've used it on my side street. I'm not 100% sure if that's something we're going to be doing going forward. Our superintendent, who is over the snow removal operations, unfortunately wasn't able to be on here this evening. But Mike, as soon as he hops on here in the next 30 seconds, we'll be able to field. Here he is. We'll be able to field that question. So, Mike, the question was for the brine. Is that something we will be applying to all the roads, not just the main roads? We'll be putting that on side streets as well.
That's a good question for, like you said, Zan. But so in theory, it would be really good if we could get to the point where we did put it on certain residential streets. There again, that's all manpower issue mostly, and the amount of time you have before an event comes in. You definitely want to hit your bridges. You definitely want to hit your hills. Unfortunately, I don't know a lot of the streets in town, but like I know, like Jackson Drive has a part that's a big hill, and if you can get to the point where you can treat residentials, that will help, because as people are driving through the neighborhoods, because we're always on the mains and secondaries, and we get those totally clean before they go into the residential areas. So people are driving on that before that, and as they're driving on that, just that layer of brine underneath is going to help with their traction and help create some more slush in those areas. And as long as you can get to them before you would have a refreeze, at night you have the refreeze, and then, generally the next day, especially if the sun's out, you'll get more thawing and it'll be slushy again. So as long as you can hit those areas during that slush time, that's a big benefit. But I don't know operationally what that plan is, and just how much. I mean, there's a lot of lane miles in this town, so what would probably be good to do is, and I mentioned this to Zam. We had a conversation the other day, and I was saying, you know, to have after a couple events, have, you know, everybody get together and do a breakdown of how the event went, what they saw on their streets in their areas, to find out areas that need more attention. And certain neighborhoods, I'm sure, are going to be hillier neighborhoods and you know, narrow streets and things like that that where that would help. And another thing is, and I don't, that's part of the operations as well, is what are the expectations? What is everybody's expectation? Is it in a neighborhood? Do you want to get like a single lane, you know, where people can navigate through the neighborhoods and get that knocked out first? And then depending upon how much the total snowfall amount is, do you go back and do the curb to curb? You know, that obviously that's a lot more expense. I know there's some cities where they'll get that single lane knocked out during their during their shift work, where they're working 12-hour shifts. And then they may go back over the next few days and just during their regular daylight shift, you know, let's say 8 to 4, whatever. I think we're 6:30 to, no, wait, right now we're 7 to 3:30 for the winter. So during that 7 to 3:30 shift, then they go back and that's when they do kind of the curb to curb, because you're not paying all those overtime hours that you are on the shift work. So
I think the best thing to do with that, if you'll give us a little opportunity, maybe at the next meeting in December, we probably won't have a whole lot of snowfalls by that point, to maybe have Dan come on here and give you a little rundown of what the program, what the new operation is like. When I said it's in my area, it is a secondary road that I'm thinking of. So there definitely wasn't any in the residential at the time. So Zan can speak to that. I can also talk with him tomorrow and send something out to the group if you all, just a kind of a real brief overview of what we're doing with the brine. But it would be nice for him possibly to come back on in December and say, here's our overall plan of what we're going to be doing, if that's something the group would like to hear. Will that work?
Okay, I appreciate that. My big concern is just safety. I think, you know, I'm not so much into spraying brine on every residential street, but worst thing you can do is have different conditions on the same roadway. So like Chrysler, Sterling, main streets like that, you know, if you're going to brine them, you don't want different conditions on the same road. I drove over the road for 30 years. That was the worst thing that you could do to drivers, is get them used to driving on just a wet road, and then suddenly they go to a snow packed or an ice road. And I've seen that happen with MoDOT several times. We used to complain about it all the time, but that's all I'm thinking, you know, is just be consistent. And if you're going to brine one part of a secondary road, or you don't want different conditions on the same road, is what I'm saying. That can lead to some pretty bad accidents.
Yep, correct. We will definitely add that as on the agenda for next time, to have an overview. And just so you know, this kind of format, what we're doing right now, is kind of difficult. Who was speaking just now?
That's Wes Epperson.
Wes, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
If you don't have a picture up, it's hard sometimes to figure out who exactly is talking.
Right.
So we just want to make sure we got that for the minutes. But whatever
Okay.
I send out, I'll send something out next week and I'll send it to the entire group as a little brief overview. Thanks for the question.
I got a question
Thank
for
you.
Mike. For Mike. When are those new trucks coming? Are they here?
We've had 7 delivered already, and we're getting the 4 more tomorrow. Supposed to be here tomorrow, and then the platform truck is going to be the last one. So we'll have everything here. We should have everything here as of tomorrow or Monday, and everything is going to be prepped and ready. So the guys are taking and switching the AVL system out of the old trucks into these new trucks. That doesn't take them a day.
Mike, what's the AVL? We were killing it with acronyms a little while ago. Can you explain what the AVL is?
Okay, that's the GPS routing system or vehicle location. They and I know Mr. Lucy is familiar with this a little bit from last year, probably. We did put a system on all the trucks where we can track them. We can track whether the blade is up or down, so we know where they're plowing. You get color coding by whether their blade was up or down. Same way with the salt spreader, whether it was on and off. So that we can track areas. We can also track, you can get a lot of data from that as well. We can track the amount of salt that they're dispensing. It's also a way to know what amount of salt a person is dispensing, because you can tell them to throw 200 pounds per lane mile down, and they could take that thing and set it on 600. Well, you're wasting a lot of money that way. So we'll be able to control costs a lot better. We'll get reports. We'll know. You can kind of gauge per event. So over time, you can watch, okay, on a 2-inch snowfall, this is generally how much salt we're using. On a 4-inch, 6-inch, and kind of have that in mind. And if you see something where all of a sudden you're way out of line on your salt usage for a certain depth of snow event, you need to figure out what's going on. But right now in the past, we've had no way of tracking. You get people that have plowed snow for 20 plus years, and they think, the more is the better. I'm going to just put it down as heavy as I can because it's not going to hurt and all that. Well, you just can't do that in today's environment, especially with a lot of the environmental issues that causes. The salt water going into the stormwater system or creeks and ditches and stuff like that. But anyway, I guess I'm rambling here a little bit, but all our trucks are going to be here. The flatbed will be the last one to deliver, but that just has a brine unit that we have existing that we'll put onto that truck. And as far as the brine goes, we had one unit that was actually what you call a controlled applicator. The other 2 trucks, again, these are all trucks that we had transferred in from a utility department over time. So the trucks were already 15 years old or more when we got them. And we always get that kind of truck and we have to keep it running, which causes a lot of expense for one. But they were basically homemade gravity systems. So you had no way of controlling how much you were dispensing. It was very slow. So it took a lot longer to lay that down. That's why they could not cover as large of an area as what we'll be able to cover now with these controlled systems.
Thanks, Mike. And one other thing it's important to note, these new plows are larger than the blades are larger than what we've had in the past by, I believe, a foot. But that makes a fairly big difference, especially with the wing plows on the sides. We have some folks that have quite a bit of experience with using those wing plows, and we have some that don't have as much. So starting, I believe, next week, we've got some obstacle courses and some training set up for those guys so they can kind of, get ready to go with these new trucks. So they're not just first snowfall in a brand new truck, brand new blade that's wider than they're used to. We're going to try to mitigate as many potential issues early on as we can. So thanks, Mike. Any other questions?
How many trucks are we running besides the new ones? Do we have old ones still going?
So our oldest ones, there will be 4 trucks that are 2014. So 6 years old will be our oldest trucks, which is a big difference from, our average was like 15 years. So there's a total of 22 dump trucks they run. And then we have 2 550s and 2 450s, which are smaller trucks, and they have smaller spreaders. That's what the supervisors will be driving. And if they get a call, they can, sometimes they need to clean up an intersection. They take those kind of trucks and they run and they'll clean that intersection up. There may be a small area that just needs cleaning up. That's what they try to do with those 4 trucks. And we actually have 2 more 550s on order they were supposed to be here for this snow season. The dealer messed up on the length of the truck, the cab to axle. So they had to reorder them. So we'll probably get those in possibly February, March of next year. But so we'll have 2 more additional smaller trucks. And what's nice about those too is an individual does not have to have a CDL to drive those, so that you're able to open that up to maybe more personnel that can assist in the snow operation.
Thank you.
22 dump trucks, and then 4, soon to be 6 of the smaller trucks.
And obviously, typically, 22 running at the exact same time is kind of difficult. So there's going to be an issue that'll pop up, a tire issue or broken this or broken that. So from what I've been told, typically at any given time, there should be around 18 or 19 on the road, and the other ones are getting repaired, getting gassed back up, getting more salt, more brine, all that kind of good stuff. Really quick, just before I forget, our next meeting, if the group is fine with it, is December. I have it written down here. Mike, you probably know off the top of your head. December, or Tanya knows off the top of her head. Is it the 16th?
Sorry. It will be the 4th Thursday of December. So
the 24th. No.
24th.
I don't think we're doing the
Okay,
24th.
no, so that's wrong. So
I'm gonna delegate that one.
Yeah. Do we want to move it to the 17th?
Real quick, I know that in the April meeting that the team had discussed possibly making it the 3rd Wednesday at 6 o'clock originally. I don't know if that time frame works for everybody. But what we're trying to, of course, we're working with the holidays on that one and then moving forward. So we'd entertain any recommendations from the committee on what date and time they want to meet for this next one in December.
December 3rd is good with me.
December 3rd.
Correct.
Okay.
Butch,
What time of day would you be looking at possibly?
I know you guys are staying late, so I don't know what everybody else wants to do. So, I mean, 5's fine with me, but I don't know if we go early or not.
Five seems to be a good time usually for most. I mean, if folks gives them time a little bit of time to get home, we've even bumped them up to 6 before if need be. So unless someone objects, we can try to just keep it at 5 again, and hopefully get some feedback from Fran and Tim and Gloria when we send that out. And then at that meeting, like Mike said, then we can establish an official, 3rd Wednesday of the month or every quarter, or however we're going to do that, and come up with a better time that's consistent. So is everyone good? Keeping it 5 o'clock? 5 o'clock on December 3rd?
Sounds good to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And unless we hear otherwise from the mayor's emergency orders, we will plan to do another Teams meeting. But if we hear otherwise, then we will schedule something to do an in-person meeting either at the utility center, but more likely at City Hall.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Anything else left for the good of the order?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I have one more thing. And this concerns an actuator on a left turn signal that I've emailed the city manager's office a couple of times, and I don't know if that's the right avenue to take, but the left turn actuator on Sterling going north at Blue Ridge Boulevard has not worked for quite a while now. That's a safety issue. We have had a fatality accident there on a left turn, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, and I wish that left turn at that intersection, and I've suggested this, was controlled. I just think that's a dangerous intersection to let people turn left on green, but that's my opinion. But I do think the actuator needs to be repaired.
Okay.
And you said that was Sterling and Blue.
No, it's Sterling headed north, turning left, going west onto Blue Ridge Boulevard. So it'd be the Sterling at Blue Ridge Boulevard left turn actuator on the north when you're headed northbound.
Okay, the north. Okay, I can send an email out to our traffic engineer, so I can do that and have him look at it.
Yeah,
Okay,
and I'll work with Tanya on that to ask for the protected left instead of the permitted left on that one.
And just to be clear, was that was Wes talking, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just to make sure. Sorry. All right. Anything else? I guess I can't officially adjourn the meeting since I'm not a committee member, but I will say the meeting is now officially over. I can't adjourn it. So we will, again, we'll follow back up with you soon. I'll be sending something out next week regarding the brine situation to kind of give you a brief overview on that. Feel free to reach out to any of us if you have any questions, and Mike will be sending that presentation out probably around Tuesday or Wednesday. That includes the financial information. And once you guys have a chance to look over that, give your feedback. Obviously, when would they need to give feedback to give you a chance to change it before putting it in the council's packet?
Well, Mike, I will shoot for getting that out Tuesday at the latest. In order to get that back to council into the packet, I would need that by end of day on the 8th. And then we would key it in on the 9th because it's due at noon on the 9th. So again, we'll shoot for the 6th. That gives you till end of the day on the 8th, and I'll put that in the correspondence as well, and then we'll get it keyed in on the 9th, and then that will be on the council meeting agenda in the for information only on the 19th accordingly.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thanks.